if each political party was a Sunday lunch, what would it look like?
Hold on, I'm going to guess. Let me
guess,
see if I
and
can
I'll mark you out of 10 for your guess.
I think voters will think... Now, as a pollster, why is that question that I have wanged on and on about and that Keir Starmer put up in lights in his first big speech?
And a bigger question, whose side are you on?
Why is that question, whose side are you on, important?
Whose side are you on, I think, has baked into it 3 underlying things that are all politically important. The first thing is your motives. Like, why are you there? Why did you decide to put yourself up for the job? Why do you think that you can effectively lead a country? And whose side are you on is encapsulate that as a very important feature. The second, what is the emotional connection that people have? A lot of the reasons why people vote, yes, it can be explained by demographics. Yes, it can be explained by geography, or, what's the most important policy, or all of these other things that political scientists talk about. But sometimes it's about stuff that's a bit more base, which is, what's your emotional connectivity to someone? The third feature, I think, is someone's intention and what their priorities are. And whose side are you on when you ask that of someone and people think about that and they assess that or they feel that? What they're doing is extrapolating out what they think you think are the most important things to do in terms of how you will govern, what are your policy priorities, what are your, away from policy, what are your governance priorities, your motives, your emotional connectivity, and then effectively your intentions, your policy and governance intentions.
Which is how a lot of people do their politics, isn't it? When we talk about the policy proposals, and we're going to talk about a few, not many people buy a manifesto, read a manifesto, study policy, do they? And if they do use social media, it is basically, I always say, a 3-letter word, isn't it? It's either LOL, WTF, or OMG. And often all people are doing is, I like what I'm seeing, I hate what I'm seeing. I like what I'm hearing, I hate what I'm hearing. Which is why, to make it punchy for people, whose side are you on, is that punchy question.
We don't like to think about all of these other features, but actually it's an incredibly important part of politics. It's why we do it's why people conduct focus groups, right? And they ask silly questions like, but they're not silly. If a party was a car, what car would it be? If a political party was a family lunch, what would that family lunch look like? I mean, Lord Ashcroft polls have recently today produced a series of focus groups asking those exact questions about if each political party was a Sunday lunch, what would it look like? And what the answers are very funny, but also very human, because they capture the archetype of both voters, the parliamentary party, the membership really cleanly.
Okay, well, go on then. Well, can I guess? I've not got them. Have you got them there, James?
Well, I have, and I think...
hold on. I'm going to guess.
Let me guess, and I'll mark you out of 10 for your guess.
I think voters will think... You see, I'm not sure with the Tories. I mean, people who like the Tories will sort of say roast beef. They'll think it's kind of English and formal. People who loathe the Tories will want something, what is a chaotic meal? They'll want a kind of really rubbish meal, won't they, people who hate the Tories? And I think people who don't like the Labour Party are likely to say it's kind of vegetarian lasagna, something they turn their nose up at if they're not there. Whereas someone who likes the Labour Party presumably thinks the Labour Party is good, wholesome, working class grub. It's kind of, fish and chips with mushy peas. Have I got it horribly wrong?
You're not far off. I think on the Conservative one, you're quite close. So Lord Ashcroft polls has described it as a dinner in a stately home, but they can't afford to run it. And
That's much better than mine.
There are lights and holes in the roof, and it would be like a cross of Shameless Skins and the Kardashians. That's obviously a bit ridiculous, but the paradox of a stately home that can't be run it's very clever, right? It basically hits on a truism there.
Yeah.
A Labour Sunday lunch is salmon and strawberries, a wee bit more upmarket than the SNP. They'd be in Islington eating sourdough bread at £9 a loaf.
Did those two caricatures, the Tory posh dinner with the holes in the roof and the Labour sort of slightly woke Islington dinner, did that surprise you as a voter description?
I think it's wonderfully evocative, especially the Tory one. I mean, the idea of this kind of stately home where there's this kind of debauched behaviour and it's chaotically run, I think speaks to kind of Partygate and just the chaos the country's in, the economy, the NHS, the housing crisis, everything's in just a bit of a mess. And you kind of get that, Eton mess. There we are. There's the perfect pudding to accompany that meal. For the Labour one, I think, it's very much what Keir Starmer was trying to address in his speech, isn't it? It's that I'm not just some posh, North London lawyer who's made good. I actually started off in more humble beginnings. He played up this sort of Pebble Dash semi. We heard for the umpteenth time his dad was a toolmaker, his mum was a nurse.
My dad was a toolmaker. He worked in a factory all of his life. My mum was a nurse, but for most of her life, she had a debilitating illness called Still's disease.
There's this new fascination with what politicians' parents did for a living. So it's all trying to make him sound a bit more human, a bit less like he's in an elite bubble.